Hare Hare. Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladeva, Jai Subhadra.
What is suppose the garland's doing? I meant to do it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Could you just take the echo off, please? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
So devotees and friends, Hare Krishna, how nice to be here with you all at this very interesting place. This is a Goshala. Really? How many cows are there? Two.
One cow, one bull.
Okay, well that's very interesting. I've not been here before, I was not aware of it. So anyway, devotees, you know what? In a couple of days, it will be Shivaratri. As I assume you're aware of that. And I thought that under the circumstances, we could say some things about Lord Shiva, but particularly about Lord Shiva's position, who he is, what he is, his position as a devotee. And all the great acharyas, the great devotional authorities. That's how they describe Lord Shiva. That he's a devotee of Lord Krishna, not just a devotee, but a great devotee. One of the very great devotees of Lord Shiva. So let's just say a few words on this, and this may sort of try to help educate us if we're not so familiar with the background and how all these things work, the deeper understandings and meanings like that. So first of all though, please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is, well, the most authoritative and important of all the Vedic scriptures. This is at 13, verse 17. It's just about the last verse, one of the very last verses in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is big. It's really big. It's thousands of pages, as Prabhupada's presented it. 12 cantos, 12 main sections, about 15,000 verses, Bhagavad Gita is exactly 700 Srimad Bhagavatams, for something like 15,000 or so. And this is coming right at the end, in the last few 3 or 4 verses or so, when everything in Srimad Bhagavatam is being summarized and really brought to the conclusion. We find this verse. And actually it's glorifying Lord Shiva, but it's glorifying other personalities or entities also. So please listen carefully. Nimna Ganam Yata Ganga Devanam Achuto Yata Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu Puranam Idam Tata. Just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta is a name of Krishna. It means infallible or undefeatable. Lord Achyuta is the supreme among deities, and Lord Shambhu, Lord Shiva, is the greatest of Vaishnavas, means devotees of Vishnu or Krishna. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. That's really interesting, isn't it? Just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta, the supreme among deities, and Lord Shambhu or Lord Shiva is the greatest of Vaishnavas. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. So I said we'd say something about who he is, what he is. Lord Shiva, what's his position? What's his nature? And there's a very interesting description of that in Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita is also one of the Vedic scriptures. It's spoken by Lord Brahma, who's famously the creator of the universe. So Brahma Samhita says, Shiram yata dati vikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahitata pritag asti heto ya shambhutam apitata. And listen carefully to the translation of this verse. It's a little complicated, not very, but a little bit. Just as milk is transformed into yogurt by the action of acids, but yet the effect, yogurt, is neither the same as nor different from its cause, milk. So I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, Govinda being a name of Krishna. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu, Lord Shiva, is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction of the universe. Yeah, so let's just explain that a bit to start off. So it says that Lord Shambhu, Lord Shiva, he's like yogurt in relation to milk. So who is the milk that he's so to speak, that milk is actually Lord Vishnu himself. So, in other words, Lord Shiva is a form, not exactly the same, just as yogurt and milk. No, they're the same, but they're not just the same. I think we're all well aware of that. That you can only make yogurt from milk. But when you've got the yogurt, you can't turn it back into milk. That's it. It's fixed. It's permanently changed. So like this, Lord Shiva is a form of Lord Vishnu, but he's been transformed into the special state of Lord Shiva, Shiva Tattva. We talk about different tattvas, different categories of living beings. Vishnu Tattva means Lord Vishnu and all of the Tatastha Shakti, the marginal potency of the Lord. That's us. We are marginal. We're spiritual by nature, and we belong in the spiritual world, but we have a tendency to this world of birth and death, although we are eternal, but we've got that tendency to just sort of drift away from our eternal spiritual position and get caught up in this material world where we all have our temporary material bodies. And sooner or later, all of us will leave these bodies, or in other words, die, because the bodies are temporary. Even the little ones who are very young, it's going to come to them sometime. Generally according to the law of averages, they've got a lot longer to go than someone like me or a number of us here. But still, it's going to come their way. Yeah, and then there's Shakti Tattva, the category of living entities coming from Radharani, the consorts of the Lord. And Parvati comes in that category, the Shakti of the Lord, the energy of the Lord. But then there's Shiva Tattva, and that's Lord Shiva. He's in his own special category. And as we read, he's like yogurt in relation to milk, the milk being Lord Vishnu. But you take some milk and you apply, if you make yogurt at home, you'd know, you apply some acidophilus or just apply some yogurt. And sort of seal it up, and in the morning you've got yogurt. And when you've got the yogurt, you can't change it back into milk. But yogurt back into milk, forget it. And the difference is that through contact with the acid, which transforms it, the yogurt is sour. Milk in terms of, as a category of food, is considered sweet. Did you know that? Milk is sweet. And you can make, if you know how, you can extract sugar from milk. It's called lactose. Actual sugar. Just actual sugar. Yeah. So, milk is sweet. Rice is considered sweet. But then other things, like Kerala. Oh, I like Kerala. And meti herbs, oh gosh. It's kind of, technically they call it astringent, kind of bitterish. Anyway, these different tastes are there. And yogurt is sour, but milk is sweet. So like this, Lord Shiva's in very special position. He's almost on the level of the Supreme Lord, but he's been changed into a different state by contact with some souring agent. And what is the souring agent in the case of Lord Shiva? Sours Lord Shiva is Durga, Parvati, his wife. She's the presiding deity of the material. In other words, Mother, Mataji. But if you see pictures of Durga, I'm sure you've seen many, there she usually has multiple hands and she has different weapons. A chopper, a saber, a dagger for stabbing, a trident or a spear or something. She's a heavy Mataji, a tough girl. Miseries of this world, fundamental miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. But then there's other miseries coming just from your own body. You know, sickness and things like this. And misery is just coming from the material nature. Sometimes it's too hot, then sometimes it's too cold, and sometimes it rains. So these are miseries coming from material nature. And then there's miseries from other living entities. You know, like, well, mosquitoes can be such a nuisance sometimes. Actually, there's an interesting story of Lord Shiva in that regard. One of our great devotees in our line, one of our greatest, his name was Sanatan Goswami, and he was living the area of Lord Krishna. And he would just move around the Vrindavan area, walk around, visiting the different places of pastimes of Lord Krishna. And one day he came to a place Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill is a very famous place of Krishna's pastimes. He lifted it and held it with the little finger of his left hand for a week or so. So there in the middle of the hill is a lake called Manasi Ganga. Manasi meaning the mind, and Ganga is the Ganga, the Ganges river. So the Ganges, which has come from Lord Krishna's mind. And it's a very sacred place, and you get so many people there, going there on pilgrimage. So anyway, Sanatan Goswami wanted to spend some time there. And there, at one point, you know, in India now, in India, the mosquitoes are fairly small. But when I first went to India, 1976, I first went to India. And back then they had really serious mosquitoes. You know, they're like this big. Man-eaters. Oh yeah. So the mosquitoes were bothering Sanatana Goswami in the course of the night, and he became sort of frustrated. So he got up, he just wanted to go in the middle of the night. But Lord Shiva from the temple, Chakaleshwara, he came in the form of an old Brahmin, an old priest, and begged him, please don't go. We really want to have your association. Please stay. And Sanatana Goswami said, but what about these mosquitoes? They're too much. And Lord Shiva said, don't worry, I will take care of the mosquitoes. You just lie down again. You won't be bothered again, ever. And sure enough, that's what happened. And so Sanatana Goswami lived there until he actually passed away. He lived there for quite some years. Yes, so that was Lord Shiva helping the devotee of the Lord. So anyway, we were saying that Lord Shiva, he's a type of form of Lord Vishnu. Oh, anyway, you're familiar with Kathak? They have a whole lot of bells on their, like from the knees down to the feet, and they stamp their feet. You know, I can't do it. I'm not an expert on Kathak, but you get some of these girls. Wow, it's amazing. So Lord Shiva, he does a similar dance, smashing with his feet, and it shakes the universe to pieces on would you believe, on a molecular level. How's that? Yeah, so he's inspired like that because he's in that soured state due to the association of Durga, his wife, who's the presiding deity of material nature. And as we said, you know, there's particularly Gujarati people, but different people, particularly in India, they address her as Mataji, means mother, or like dear mother. But she's got all these weapons. And those weapons death, old age, disease, etc. Yeah. And so Prabhupada gave a description that each of those weapons represents of life in this world. The dagger represents something, some misery. Then the saber represents another misery. And Prabhupada said, for the materialistic people who are impious, who are not devotees of the Lord, they're always trying to dodge these weapons because these different difficulties are coming and coming and coming, just one after the other. Life is full of them. Like, you know what it's like in South Africa, that it was difficult enough, you know, dealing with the political situation, dealing with, you know, the financial situation, the rand. To deal with all these situations, and then along comes COVID. Haribol. Haribol. You know, if it wasn't enough having to work hard and not get paid enough, but then suddenly COVID comes. It's crazy. That's Represented by the different weapons of Durga. So Prabhupada said, if she doesn't get you with the dagger, then she may get you with her spear. And if she doesn't get you with the spear, maybe she'll get you with her saber. And if you dodge all of them, then maybe her lion will get you. So, it's not easy in this world, put it that way. It's a tricky place, this material world. And then on top of everything, Russia invades Ukraine. But anyway, that's not our problem yet. I don't think it could not become. So anyway, Lord Shiva, through his association with Durga, who is presiding over the material nature, and he enters that particular state which is technically called Shambhu, and he develops that mood a very great devotee. That was stated here in the verse I read from the Bhagavatam, Vaishnavanam Yata, that Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu. He's actually a devotee of Lord Vishnu, of Lord Krishna. Of course, Lord Shiva is famous. We use the term, the Sanskrit term is Deva. In English, we often use the term demigod. And Lord Shiva is very famous like that. Lord Shiva, one of his names is Ashutosh. Ashutosha in Sanskrit. If you understand Hindi, you would know Ashu means desire, Asha. And Tosh means to satisfy. So Lord Shiva, this is one of his names, Ashutosh. He very easily satisfies the desires of people who approach him and ask him so many things. A nice house, a nice car, or a few new cars, a huge television to watch Kuch Kuch. But something with, what's his name, Shah Rukh Bhai. Shah Rukh Khan, anyway. Lord Shiva is known as Ashutoshi. He satisfies the desires quickly. Therefore, he's popular with people who want material things. But Lord Shiva, when you see pictures of him, at least more authentic pictures, you see he's sitting down and he has his mala. Maybe his Rudraksha mala, or maybe Tulsi mala. But he has some beads. You often see him like that, sitting down under a tree, and he's chanting, he's meditating. And then, because he's Ashutosh, it's his one of his specific services to Lord Vishnu, that when people approach him that we want this, we want that, we want so many things, he has to stop his meditation. He has to stop his chanting, put his beads down, and attend to this person. And you know what people are like? Usually they have their shopping list. Give me a house and a car and a color TV. Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. Or, I want a big Lani house in Westville. And I want Mercedes-Benz, the big one, the black one. And I want big TV, we already mentioned that. And, I want Christian Dior, Pierre Cardin, sari for my wife. Pierre Cardin sari, how's that? So, got a shopping list. And Lord Shiva immediately, he said, okay, you want a house. How about a palace? How about of no real? Does he have a Rolls Royce? He doesn't have any car. He has Nandi the bull. And bulls are not known for moving very fast. I don't know if any of you ever tried to ride on the back of a bull. Not very comfortable. And he's got no television. He's got no fancy clothes. Oftentimes he just wears some animal skin he just found lying somewhere. So Lord Shiva, we shouldn't make the mistake of thinking that because Lord Shiva fulfills people's material desires very easily and he's therefore known as Ashutosh, we shouldn't make the mistake of thinking that he values those things, that he wants those things for himself. He doesn't, because he's a devotee of the Lord. He's on a higher level. He's renounced from all those material so-called pleasures and luxuries and all that sort of thing. Yes, so therefore people often misunderstand. They don't clearly, properly understand Lord Shiva. Who is he? What's his nature? What's his orientation in life? That he's actually a great devotee of the Lord. And if you go to Vrindavan, the place of Lord Krishna, that area, it's a whole area, then you'll see there are many temples of Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva there, he's there as what they call in Sanskrit, Dikpal. Dik means direction, north, south, east, west, and just all around the directions. Dik. And Pal means protector. Like Krishna is known as Gopal. Go meaning the cows. He's the protector of the cows. So Lord Shiva's there. Normally they're smaller temples. The great majority are quite small, and they're at much more substantial temples of Lord Krishna. And one of them I can just mention, one which I've been to many times. It's at a place called Nandagram. Nandagram. Nanda meaning Nanda Maharaj, the father of Krishna, and Gram meaning village or sort of town, little town. Nandagram. And on top of the hill there's big temple of Krishna and Balaram. Big temple, and again, thousands of people come every day. So, Krishna was living there just before he left Vrindavan and went to Mathura. Then he stayed in Mathura a while. Then he went to Dwaraka, and he stayed in Dwaraka for decades. But he stayed in the Vrindavan area for his first 10 or 11 years. And the last 3 years he was there at Nandagram, up his father's palace was on top of the hill at Nandagram. So Lord Krishna, he's just a young person, like 7 years old, something like that. He's just a young boy. And one day Krishna was there, Mother Yashoda was there, Krishna was at home, and who should come and knock on the door but Lord Shiva came and knocked on the door. And you probably know, Lord Shiva, his appearance sometimes is really quite extraordinary. He often covers his body with the ashes of cremated human bodies. Actually, the cremated bodies of great devotees of Krishna. And sometimes he has a garland of skulls or bones. He keeps a cobra around his neck. Some scorpions are there. So in other words, you know, he looks quite extraordinary and even a little shocking. And Lord Shiva came and knocked on the door. And Mother Yashoda opened the door, and she didn't understand this is Lord Shiva because he just appeared out of nowhere. And he looked like some sort of wild sadhu. One of these wandering mendicants you get just wandering around India. You still get thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And so she thought, who on earth is this? He looks just like way out, too far out. And Lord Shiva, well, Mother Yashoda said, what do you want? You want roti? Aapko roti chahiye? He said, no. I don't want any roti. I don't need roti. I just want to see your lala. Your lala means your little boy. Means Krishna. I just want to have darshan of your lala. And Mother Yashoda looked at Lord Shiva, not knowing who he is, but all these, you know, a cobra, and on top of all of that, you know, a fountain of water coming out of his head, the Ganges. And she thought, this fellow is too extreme. He's just too much. And he's saying, I want to see your lala. Let me have darshan of your lala. And Mother Yashoda thought, if my lala sees this fellow, he's just going to have a fit and just start screaming. And, you know, it'll be very difficult to pacify him. So she told him, no, you can't see my lala. Take a roti and go. Yeah, just go. So he took a roti and off he went. But as soon as he left the doorway and just started taking a step or two away, inside, little Krishna started crying and just howling, just wildly, uncontrollably. And Mother Yashoda tried all her mother's tricks to pacify the child. You all know. Throw him, well, he's 7 years old, so I guess she didn't throw him up and down, but in different ways trying to pacify him. She could not pacify him. And one of the neighbors came and said, you know, what happened? And Mother Yashoda said, well, you know, this wild-looking mendicant came and he wanted to see my lala, but he was just too bizarre. So I told him to go And right at that moment, Krishna just started screaming. And you know what the lady said, her friend? She said, maybe he put naja on him. Some bad muti. Ticklish or something. Yeah, maybe he put naja on him. So, you better call him back. Call him back. And so she found him. He was still wandering around. Mother Yashoda found him, called him back, and she let him have darshan of Krishna.
Haribol.
Haribol. And as soon as Krishna saw Lord Shiva, Krishna started smiling and laughing and no more crying at all. So Lord Shiva stayed a little while, and then he said, okay, you know what, I've got to move on. Thank you for letting me see your Lala, and see you later. And off he went. As soon as he walked away, then Krishna again started howling and crying just uncontrollably. And Mother Yashoda called Lord Shiva, come back, you got to come back. He came back for a minute or two and said, listen, and Krishna became quiet. And then he said, listen, I have to go. That's all there is to it, so I'm going. And Krishna started crying again. Because Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, he is the greatest devotee, or one of the greatest devotees of Vishnu, of Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna appreciates his devotees so much. So, but this time he went, and he really went. And Lord Krishna was again in the same state of just devastation. And they tried to find him around the village, but he'd gone. So they sent out search parties, and eventually they found him down at, it's a really, really nice place called Asheshavan. And there's a temple of Lord Shiva as Asheshvara, the Lord of desires, Asha Isha. And so Mother Yashoda begged him, please, you got to come back. So he said, all right, I'll come back just one last time. And Krishna was howling. He came back, Krishna stopped crying. And then Lord Shiva said, you can't go. You just got to stay. That's it. Permanent. You're a permanent resident now of Nandagram. And Lord Shiva said, I can't. I've got to move around and go to many places and go to Kailash and all over the place. I can't stay. And Mother Yashoda begged him. So Lord Shiva said, all right, I'll stay. I will expand myself and I'll stay. So he expanded himself into, you could say, his typical deity form, Shiva Linga. And he's positioned, the Shiva Linga is positioned by the entrance of the compound. There's a whole open area in the middle, there's the temple. And on the main gateway is the Shiva Linga. He's known as Nandishvara Shiva. The Lord Shiva said, all right, I will expand myself and stay, but a few demands, a few needs. He said, every morning when you bathe Krishna, I want to be the first one who gets the Charanamrita, means the bathing waters, the bathing liquids. that have been used for bathing Lord Krishna. Charana meaning the feet, Amrita meaning the nectar. So the nectar which is poured over the body of the Lord and then down over his feet. I want to be the first one. And Mother Yashoda said, no problem. Then, after the main midday offering of food, the Bhoga offering, that they call it the Raj Bhoga, the meal of the king. So after that offering, when they remove the prasadam, all the different items that were offered, I want to be the first one to get the Mahaprasadam. You must bring it to me. So Mother Yashoda agreed, no problem. We'll bring you the Mahaprasad. Just stay. Please just stay. So on those two conditions, Lord Shiva stayed. And you know, he's still there. And every day, this is now 5,000 years later, every day they still bring him the Charanamrita. He's the first one to get the Charanamrita in his little shrine by the entrance. And then after the Raj Bhoga offering, the main lunch offering to Krishna and Balaram, the first Mahaprasadam goes and is offered to Lord Shiva. So, that's interesting, isn't it? That's Lord Shiva as a devotee. And this is, Nandagram. This is like it may not be on the level of Tirupati, but it's one of the important temples in India and in that Vrindavan area, which is extremely important area, pilgrimage area in India. And then, there are many other stories that we could tell you. In fact, we could stay here all night, actually, without any difficulty. But, if you want to hear more, you'll have to come to our temple in Chatsworth on either Monday or Tuesday. I'm not sure what day we're celebrating, probably Monday. And we'll tell you some more. We'll tell you about Lord Shiva as Gopishwar, as the Lord of the gopis, of Krishna's gopis, and Lord Shiva with Vrikasura, and so on and so forth. It's really interesting to appreciate Lord Shiva as a devotee, not as an independent controller, but an empowered devotee who does that service of fulfilling desires because it's his service. It's his duty given to him by the Lord. But he himself has no interest, less than no interest, in those same things he's giving the people. He's a very interesting character, Lord Shiva, a very great devotee of the Lord. So there you go, devotees. There are some thoughts for you. You can meditate on these things. Think about these things when this festival comes in the next couple of days. So, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Haribol.
Holiness, Bhakti, Caitanya, Swami ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. So